Just 10 minutes late.
Well, that's not too bad.
Okay.
How late do we go anyway?
Oh, to like
Depends.
2 hours, like with
Yeah,
talking and stuff like that, so it's fine.
yeah.
Okay, everybody. So after once again, YouTube is causing us a lot of issues, and so I apologize once again for being late. It's not like us; we usually are on time, and everything works. But YouTube sometimes can really suck the big one. So that's how it is. So I wanted to say thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Crystal. This is the Starseeds and Lightworkers Collective here on Quantum Portals. And tonight we have an interesting presentation. And we are going to be speaking with Miss Suzy Karasik. And she is a teacher, a mentor, an activist, a whole person coach dedicated to helping individuals navigate their lives and reclaim their authentic soul. But that's not all. She has done so much work working with different people and the different aspects. And so it is really, really interesting to have her here. And I'm really looking forward to speaking with her tonight. We are going to be discussing the topic of near and shared death experiences. Now, I know the whole concept of death and all that in the West can be a little how should I say, a little bit intimidating for a lot of people in the West. But for the most part, we have a tendency in the West to approach it with fear. But we have pioneers like Miss Karasik who is leading us into a new chapter in humanity where we don't have to fear it and that we can look forward to it as something that is something to look forward to. So I think that without further ado, I will introduce Miss Suzy Karasik. Hi, Suzy. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. I was a little uh, concerned about YouTube, but here we are.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
it's all
good.
good.
So, but you have so much more to you. Like, I mean, you have a really diversified background. You have all these experiences. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. I just really honestly scratched the surface. Who and what is Suzy Karasik?
Well, uh, I'm thinking about the bio that I had given you, but
Yeah.
at one point I got a tattoo that's a butterfly and with a serpent and just a bunch of like Chinese medicine and different symbology in it. And it was to talk about having a new life. And that
Hmm.
was back in 93, I believe, when I did a somatic psychology degree at California Institute of Integral Studies. I'm in the Bay Area, San
Hmm.
Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
And, when I think back now, I've probably had 4 or 5 lives. And then the most recent one um, is, well, I've been a caregiver on and off for some time. But when I was 17, my grandfather was dying. And I was very close to him. And somehow, and luckily, I came upon Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's book. And it's Life After Death or something of that nature. She has a number of books. And I was so happy to read that and telling him how great it's going to be on the other side and those kinds of things. And so ever since then, I've had quite an interest in it. I and we'll get into when we get into the talk. I'm now involved with IANS, which is the International Association of Near-Death Experiencers,
Hmm.
and I have a sheet for everybody because it's just profound the information. And once people start to share it, as well as shared death experiences, you find out that a whole lot of people have actually had these experiences, but they thought people would think they were crazy or whatever, so they didn't talk about it a lot.
Hmm.
But it's much more popular now and it's much more accepted and fascinating, and people want to know about it. And you're right, I do want to educate people because it's inevitable and we don't actually die. Our soul lives on forever. And I can say that with a fair amount of certainty because I've interviewed so many people and watched so many things, and I have a lot of movies and things that I'll um, recommend for people toward the end so that they can keep studying about it if they'd like.
Okay, that's great. And so did you want to sort of talk a little bit more, just a little bit more about your background? Because you have such a varied background. Like, I mean, you've
Okay,
been
I feel like
working
I
in
should pull
Silicon
up the
Valley,
bio.
you've done so much. It was just so, because I think
Well,
it sort
one
of helps
thing,
to color who you are exactly.
yeah. I did work in Silicon Valley. I kind of divided my life by decades, and I am writing a memoir, and I was going to call it Elder Skelter because as I've gotten older, things seem to be getting way more difficult and complicated, whereas when I was younger, everything was so simple.
Yeah.
You could just sort of get whatever you want, and I didn't have to give 15 background checks. And, I'm sure people are familiar with just trying to kind of maneuver in the world today. But and then the other thing is that after that degree, I went in the Peace Corps.
Okay.
And I was in Malawi, Africa, and I was working during the time of the AIDS crisis. So I did a lot of AIDS education there, and we did it with drama and went into schools. And oh, I met so many wonderful people. Malawi's called the warm heart of Africa.
Mm,
And, I'd love to get people together and take them there, although it's pretty tough right now.
yeah.
And then when I came back, things were, the world had changed once again. And I don't know, I've had a number of careers. It's not coming
Okay.
to me right now. But
Okay.
yeah, eventually I did also work as a caregiver. And there's some interesting aspects of caregiving. One, it's like if you think you need to go to therapy, just do some caregiving and you'll have enough things happen to you that helps
Okay.
you to look into yourself and go through a lot of personal changes as well. But I do believe when I try to think about why am I here specifically, it's definitely to help people. And that's why I'm a teacher and I'm a mentor. And oh, I'm also a, a functional medicine nutritionist.
Okay.
And I've been doing that for about 25 years now.
Hmm.
And really learning that food is medicine and helping people with just a lot of ailments. And then you bring in the spiritual side, and you can
Okay.
like set intentions and go into your body. And, when you start being involved with so much of the spirituality that's prevalent now, we can heal ourselves.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely have to have you come back again to talk to us about your functional medicine
I would love
work.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Especially just to empower people to take care of their own bodies.
Hmm.
You know your body better than anybody. And I would say with the somatics part, it's a lot of just being in your body, whereas most people
Hmm.
aren't always that grounded and not really present in their own bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll get to your presentation in a minute, but I feel that also right now with people being so caught up in the like in the virtual reality and all that sort of thing, is that people are going to be even less in their body, like they're less present. What do you think about that?
I agree. And I think there's a certain amount of trust that's involved, trusting yourself, trusting your own body. And then it's very, I don't want to say alarming, but it's very difficult now when let's say, for example, in social media and we see something and then I share it, and then somebody goes, that was that's fake, that was AI. And I have a good example of that because I absolutely love baobab trees.
Mm-hmm.
They grow in Malawi, and I could go on about them. But then I saw one, and then I put it on Facebook, and I said, "Oh, I've never seen one of these before," because
Oh,
it
wow.
had like different thing. And then somebody told me it's AI. It doesn't even exist.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
you have to be much more careful
Yeah,
these days. Yeah.
absolutely. So, just on the topic of the NDE, near death experience and shared experiences, uh, I guess maybe you could talk about Malawi or different parts of the world that you, because I think you've traveled quite a bit.
I have, yes,
In the
yeah.
West, like I was saying, people definitely have a much more, I think, how should I say, a Christian perspective on the idea of dying. You know, you're here, you die, it's most likely painful, you're out, and it's just at this big blackness, and if you do manage to get to the pearly gates of heaven, if you haven't been a good person, then you're going straight to hell or you're going into heaven. And that's pretty much about it. And we've had Hollywood sort of fill in the blanks along the way. And we haven't really had a very, very structured, clear, how should I say, roadmap of what it means to live and to die and to live again. However, I know in my own experience growing up with a mother who was very spiritual and who went about doing her own spiritual work, when I was exposed to Hinduism and Taoism and Buddhism and all that, it seemed that other cultures have a much more clear roadmap. And even if you want to look at something like the ancient Egyptians, they were very, very, that was
Oh
the whole
yeah.
thing, that was all
Yeah.
about how to
Right.
live and to die. So the West got lost along the way. And I mean, we're not going to go into that whole, concept of the West because I mean, it's lost, period. But
Right.
what is it what is it like when, if we were having this discussion in Malawi, or if we were having this discussion in
Ooh.
other parts of the world, how would we
Uh-huh.
be approaching this differently,
That's interesting because I'm trying to decide. I mean, I have some very close friends there, and some of them are westernized, and some of them have actually. A lot of people live in Scotland because the dictator or benevolent ruler of
Hmm.
Malawi had studied Calvinism in Scotland. So there's a big influence of that in Malawi.
Okay.
Um, and especially, I mean, in some ways, when people die, they do a lot more somatic response, like they do, moaning and crying out loud, and they stay for a much longer time. And then, in different cultures, people sit with the dead.
Hmm.
But I wanted to add too that part of how I got even more into this is when my mother passed away 5 years ago.
Hmm.
And it was time, and I thought I would be fine. And I ended up being in an incredible,
Hmm.
just a void. And I just kind of went wandering around for 5 years thinking maybe I should live somewhere else or do something else.
Mm.
But the good news is that I ended up being trained as a end of life doula.
Okay.
And that's also becoming much more popular now.
Okay.
And my plan is to go around to some of these retirement homes or nursing homes, even, and talk to people about dying and how beautiful it can be. And if
Hmm.
I was a little more digitally competent, make some videos, which I do have some that we can show.
Okay.
But I know that I have to be very careful. If it's a very, let's say, for example, an evangelistic community
Hmm.
or somebody that has some very strict religious beliefs,
Yeah.
they might see that as blasphemy or
Hmm.
something. I wouldn't want to offend anyone. But,
Yeah.
and when people are older, it's a lot harder for them to change, something new. But
Hmm.
I do still feel that this will be very beneficial because when we get to share death experiences in particular, if the person is much more relaxed and their frequency is such that they can actually move into that, it's a much more beautiful experience,
Okay. Okay.
as opposed to being scared and all tightened up. And you know
Hmm.
how that is, and your body can't really receive anything.
Hmm.
So, and it's ongoing research, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because my mother also passed away a number of years ago. It's about 4 years now, and that just threw me for a loop. And I thought I would have been ready for it, and it's funny because I was never afraid of death. Like, I'm not afraid of the death part. I'm not afraid of pain or anything like that. But I have to admit that once since my mother died, I'm a little bit more apprehensive. I mean, to be
Hmm.
perfectly, yeah, it's weird. It changed the way I sort of saw it. I didn't think
Hmm.
that it was. I didn't think it would affect me in that way. It was very, very strange, and
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people are just afraid because it's the unknown, right? And I think especially, like I keep saying, the West is different because in the West we've
Yeah.
had a very, very Christian, strict, you know, very, very
Dogma.
reserved dogma,
Yeah.
of what the whole process is. And I'd like to think that right now, as the New Age movement is really expanding and people are able to explore and say, you know what, I want to leave the whole dogma that I grew up with. So some people have grown up with like a whole bunch of different dogmas, whether in and I don't want to sort of poo-poo on just on Christianity because there's other types of dogmas out there, but a lot of people are looking to explore. I think that now more than ever, the New Age movement can offer people that sort of respite, that sort of release to from the fear. I think that's the big thing. Is maybe the fear, but I noticed a couple of times you mentioned the word somatics. For people who are not familiar, can you just sort of give us a little bit of an overview of what the somatics is
Oh
and its
gosh.
relation to NDE?
Oh, okay, I would love to, but I did want to say one thing, and
Sure,
that is, I think through the talk, and especially when we get into shared death experiences,
sure.
one of the most common results of that is that people don't fear death anymore.
Okay,
They don't fear death after they experience it with someone else.
okay.
And also when you learn about near death. And that's why a lot of times I say, I can't wait to die.
Oh,
Really, I'm
really?
really excited. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's it's better than this. And of
Mm-hmm.
course we could get into other dimensions of beings and things, but this is a place really to experience and learn and grow and transform and
Mm-hmm.
create a deep relationship with
Mm-hmm.
the greater part of ourselves.
Okay. Yeah.
And once we've kind of achieved that,
Mm-hmm.
there is a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as somatics, yeah, I had been working in Silicon Valley and it got pretty crazy. And so I thought, well, I could get therapy or I could just go back to school and learn, which is often the case, wounded people or
Yeah.
whatever help wounded people. But and then it turned out that there was a special emphasis. Not only was it a master's in psychology, but it was with a somatic focus. So a lot of times people talk about body, mind, spirit. And but just to give a couple of examples, we believe that we actually hold memory at the cellular level. And sometimes I'll give an example. We have our five senses, but of course, if you study, some of the more other beings type of thing, we have nine or 12 senses and the subtle
Mm-hmm.
body and all these different aspects. But the senses are very important. And I'm sure that anyone, when you really think about it, if you like, for example, I have a thing on my website, which is specialized-systems.com, but it's very old and it's very out of date because I don't have anybody to help me do it, which maybe I will someday. Um, I give an example of, my grandfather used to always wear Old Spice
Mm-hmm.
uh, cologne. I don't really recommend cologne right now from a functional medicine perspective because most of it's chemicals, but that's another topic. But if I ever smell anything like that, I'm actually with my grandfather.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's the same thing too. I remember there were times early when we were studying because massage was a part of the program. And a woman had a lot of problems with her arm and she couldn't move her arm the same way. And as the teacher went more through it, it turned out that there was something that had happened in her childhood
Mm-hmm.
and it had to do with the arm and her being able to hold things. And so the memory is there, and these are the kind
Mm-hmm.
of things that we need to release.
Yeah.
Just like sometimes when we talk about our shadow side or this side, there's things that we've been holding for a very long time that we need to release. And um, oh
But
gosh,
are you familiar with the work of Dr. Bradley Nelson? He talks about the emotion code, body code, and in the emotion code,
yes,
body code, they talk about
yes,
how it is trapped in your cellular, and that he does work, and he'll
absolutely,
just go up to somebody and said, he'll tap on it, and then he'll do like if you know the way it works, they're asking different questions of the body, and it turns out that, for example, one woman couldn't walk properly, and it turned out that her mother had pinned when she was a baby the pin in her skin on her left side when she pinned the diaper, but the mother didn't know. So all these years she was women was walking with a limp and all that kind of stuff. And when it came out
exactly.
that that was what was happening,
Yeah,
and that was the
yeah,
pin,
that's like a
it
full
released
body
it.
chill. And we'll
Yeah,
have a whole lot more of those too. But the
absolutely.
other thing, There's other things too. There's drama therapy.
Hmm.
If talk therapy is good, absolutely. But at some point, we actually need to embody our lives in such a way that we can do drama therapy. We can do different types of movement. Um, there's a just to quickly, there's one called authentic movement. And for example, they may um, say, okay, we're going to explore like open and closed. And so then one person watches, and then the other person will get on the floor and sort of move about in such a way that they're somehow expressing this concept of open and closed.
Okay.
Because that has a lot to do with our body and emotions and those kind of things. And then the person that witnesses doesn't say, oh, when you did this, I thought this and this was about you. The person says, when you did that movement, I felt. So then it gives them a chance to see how those kind of movements affect them in their bodies. And then there can be some healing from that. Now, that's a really short explanation, but I think that's an example that kind of makes sense.
Okay.
But, certain songs. And then there's the other thing too now, just very simply, is in so many areas, like if in meditation or whatever, and then if something comes up, they'll always ask you, where do you feel that in your body? And where do you feel it in your body? And then you can feel a release and those kind of things. So, and actually, when I did it, we weren't allowed to touch people, which is one of the reasons I decided not to go and get the MFCC. And I also realized I couldn't talk to 5, 6 people a day. I'm a
You're an empath, eh?
clairsentient,
Yeah.
and I would have worried too much about those people all the time. So
Yeah.
that's when I decided to go in the Peace Corps and do those kind of
Okay.
things. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of other ways to heal besides just talk therapy, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have a comment here from someone who says that BN says, I love her attitude about being excited to die. Well,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I have to
I
admit,
am.
I mean, look, I'm not afraid of it. Like if it happens, it happens. I would love to be, I'm the type of person who said, okay, well, if I know I'm going to die at this point, okay, I'll prepare, I'll get my stuff together, da, 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 and I'll just lie in a bed
Mm-hmm.
and wait for it. But so I think for me, it's more about not being like caught off guard. And I have cats, and I have a cat, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't want to die. And she's stuck at home alone. That for me is the biggest nightmare.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like if you
yeah,
have a
I do
dog and you
think
don't want them
about
at
that
home.
sometimes when I take trips too. It's
Yeah,
like, well, if anything happened, how will they find, who and how and where all that.
exactly.
But yeah, I think, yeah, let's get into the topic because you're bringing up a lot of
Yeah,
things that
sure.
that are going to substantiate
Mm-hmm.
that.
Okay, great.
And yeah,
Okay, so I'm going to pull up your
let's
presentation.
see if I can
All right, so
somehow.
let's get started. All right,
Yeah,
so
I'm
there
gonna
you go.
do this and then see if I can somehow also see
Yeah,
the
we have a bit of a lag, so you're probably going to see it a little bit behind. Just how it works with YouTube.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so
Actually,
we're here.
I'm trying to see the oh, there we go, to
Yeah,
see the
the first
chat.
page. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's start with the PowerPoint that you so graciously helped me.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Um,
So we'll go to the first
yeah,
slide
I'm
here.
turning into a Luddite, which is crazy because I
Oops.
worked in Silicon Valley for 10 years and made all the chips that are in these
Mm-hmm.
machines.
Okay. Whoops, we had a bit of a issue
Yeah,
here.
YouTube kind of threw us off today, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's it. But I have it. I'm just going to pull it up. Can you just tell us a little bit more about the near-death experience? Just like some examples, and then once I've pulled up your PowerPoint, we can
Well,
continue.
um, it's usually when someone dies, oftentimes it's an accident or an illness. I mean, that's usually the reason.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of dying, and I think that one photo that you had, well, let me tell you this. I actually had a near-death experience, but I say it wasn't a very good one. And at one point, I thought maybe it was just an out-of-body experience. So what happened was I was in Jamaica. This was back in 1985. And I literally one night, I like heard a noise in my body. And I thought to myself, boy, if I was in the US, I'd go to the hospital. So I had some issues and I went to the nurse at the hotel and she said, "Oh, you Americans, you're so finicky," or, dissed me or somehow. So I just went on along with it. And there's an interesting somatic aspect in this too. So that was on a Friday night, and Sunday we were coming home anyway. I went straight to the hospital. I was in so much pain in my belly. And do you know that when I got into the hospital and I saw the doctor there with the white coat on, I had no pain. I had no pain because somatically my body thought, okay, now you're in some kind of a safe place.
Okay.
So I don't need to give you all this information. So he actually sent me home. I mean, they did did some tests and my white blood cells were off the chart, but they sent me home. So about 3 days later, I actually looked in the mirror and I saw like tombstones in my pupils.
What?
So I called a doctor and he said, "You better come here right now." And it took him quite a while to figure it out. But it turned out that my appendix had ruptured, which is really amazing that they don't think of that straight away. So it's actually a better story, but it'll be in
Yeah.
my book,
Anyway, I've pulled up your presentation,
my
so we'll
presentation.
be ready to go with
So
that.
what happened
Oh,
was,
sorry.
as when they finally figured it out, I was on a lot of medication and pain medication. So one night I actually rose up above my body. I saw myself lying there, and all I really felt was that if somebody touched me, my arm would fall off. I was so weak, but I did not see the light and go down the tunnel. And this gets into it because most of the time, the reason it's a near death is because they come back. And I'll talk about a bunch of people
Sure.
that you've probably heard of, but they always tell them, it's not your time. You need to go back.
Okay. Wow.
And sometimes people aren't that happy about that, especially if they have to go into a pretty injured body.
Yeah.
But still, typically, there's a very positive aspect to it. So yeah,
Okay,
let's
good.
start that and see if we
Okay,
can
so we'll do
kind of
that
move
again.
through that.
So we're back to the first page. So it's about near and shared death experiences, and it's interesting. The title is "Concept of Time, Space, Physics, and Senses." So I'm sure we can get into that.
Absolutely. I'm not seeing it. Am I going to see that?
Yeah, you should be seeing it, but like I said, it's at a lag. So we're on this. You want to sort of pull it up on your side, and because I think you have a version of it as well.
Oh
So
boy, I do.
yeah, so I'll just follow along with you. So you can put it up on your side, and then I can
Oh,
follow
that
along
might
with you.
take a minute.
Okay.
Oh, YouTube.
Yeah, it's there now. So I think you could see it now. No?
Um, Closed caption. I'm seeing my, oh boy.
But
I'm
you
seeing
can see it
my,
on our screen now. It's up now. So I think you should be able to.
I'm just seeing our, I'm seeing like words of what we're saying.
Yeah. So
I'm
near.
really thrown off. Hold on a minute, hon. Let me see
Okay.
if I can find that real quick.
Well, while we're
Do you
doing
do
that.
you edit this or anything?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me see. It was the one where you sent
Yeah.
me. Here we go. Here's the PowerPoint. Hopefully it's the newer one,
Yeah. All right.
the most recent one. Here we go. Okay,
Okay.
great. Okay, so yeah, that's a beautiful picture that I like there because I think that's a lot of times the story that people tell, is that they actually felt themselves lifting out of their body.
Okay.
And I'll actually just Well, yeah, let's just start with, okay, so we've got NDE, which stands for near death experience. We've got SDE, which is your shared. Then we've got the spectrum of end of life experience. That's what we're going to talk about when we get into shared death experiences.
Okay.
And then there's just kind of the end of life experience that I want to talk about. And actually, I think I'll just mention that now. I don't have a lot of slides on that, but one of the things that is absolutely true from everybody that's ever discussed dying, and also in the shared death experience, people have seen it, but all of your ancestors come to greet you.
Okay.
You are never alone, which they tell us that all the time anyway, but all of your ancestors come to greet you. And there's one story that I'm going to tell where the guy turned around because his father was in front of him, and there was a line of beings going back to infinity. So everyone comes to meet you, and you are reunited with everyone. And there's often a lot of times where when your loved one will actually start talking to people because they've already come there to accompany you.
Mm-hmm.
And you never want to say, well, there's nobody there or anything like that. You want to I'm getting more into shared death, so we'll
Yeah,
wait on that.
exactly.
So let's are we at what is life like after a near death experience? Are you on that one, or that's what I'm on?
Yeah, sure. So we're there now.
Okay. So they're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. They're reaching a point of no return, and they begin to see beings of light. And the light is a kind of light that you've never seen before and
Mm-hmm.
probably only will when you're in that dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, the profound love, I think that's the biggest story. And when you look at my resources page,
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend that you go to IANDS, it's IANDS.org, and sign up with that. You don't have to become a member, but if you do, and it's not that expensive and it's all volunteers and nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
then you can go back and see hundreds of videos where people have told their experiences.
Exactly. I just wanted to
So,
tell people that in the mailings that I sent out, that
mhm.
we have the link, so you can go
Oh,
to the
good.
link and
For
just sort of click
IANDS?
on it. Yeah, but
Okay, great.
the
Yeah,
all
and
the
it's in the
information.
resource guide that
Yeah,
I
the
have for
resource
you
guide
as
exactly.
well.
Okay, so let's get back to the site.
So it says that a lot of times people with 10 to 20% of cardiac experience it, but there's a very uh, fascinating aspect. And maybe you've heard some stories. Like one is, they were working on this woman's heart, and she rose out of her body, and then she went above the hospital and she could see everything. And she actually saw a little blue tennis shoe that was on the ledge of like the seventh floor of the hospital. And I don't know, maybe people could put in the chat, which I can't see too much of it right now, but when they come back and tell the story, and then well, sometimes they're afraid, but when they do tell the story, then and they said, well, give us some more information. She was like, okay, go up to the seventh floor and you're going to find a blue tennis shoe on the ledge there. And sure
Mm-hmm.
enough, it was there.
Okay.
So they'll often tell them, I heard what everybody was talking about, and I saw the doctor go out and tell my family to come in and give me the last rites and all those kinds of things. They experience everything. And, since I didn't have that, but mostly what I've learned is they're either told that you have to go back or they just come back straight away.
Mm-hmm.
But usually they're told.
Okay.
Okay, next slide.
All right. So,
Well, the shared death experiences are really the ones that I'm most excited about. And that's because you really get to see what it's like on the other side.
okay.
And I know I was going to say if we could put in the chat, I know that some people um, are very familiar with some, and some may not be. Yeah, dark void, I feel a huge vibration, then I can see around the room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I want to get a little bit more into shared death
Yeah.
experiences. So oftentimes it's either caregivers or doulas or hospice nurses. But one of the reasons that we're studying near death experiences, and I interned for a year with William J. Peters,
Okay.
and his website is Shared Crossing. Again, you'll get a printout with all these things. But one of the reasons that we want to do that is because we want to make it a legitimate science because it happens to so many people. And, we want to be able for them to find the information and know that they're not alone and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But.
So then here's where I talked about the end of life experience again.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I think it's really important to share this kind of information with people. And I also have a lot of information on grief, which I didn't include, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of different ways to go through grief. And I have one book here somewhere I might be able to find that was one that helped me tremendously. So I could maybe put that in the chat later or
Yeah. Sure.
whatever.
Absolutely.
Um, so actually, we're kind of getting into shared death experiences here, but I want to talk a little bit about near death experiences, and that is um, pretty much everybody that comes back from a near-death experience, their life has changed. And I'm sure that you've probably heard a lot of people talk about how their life has changed. A
Yeah.
lot of times they also uh, acquire the ability to be a clairvoyant, be a channeler. Once they sort of experience the other side of the veil, they have a lot more skills, if you will, or abilities to kind of jump between the different dimensions or what it's like to be across the veil.
Okay.
So, because we had all this trouble with YouTube, I'm kind of thrown off. So let's go into shared death experiences. And then when I think of some of those things, they'll come up for me. But
Okay, great.
some of the people that had, actually, let me look at my sheet for you.
Okay.
Some of the people that have had, some of the more famous people that you might have heard of. Oh, yeah, here's one. Eben Alexander. And that's his book is called, I have it in the Proof of Heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an example where he was a neuroscientist. He didn't believe any of those things. And he really was not very respectful of people that would have these experiences until he had his own. And he had some kind of a meningitis. He got a really bad bacterial or viral infection. And they were giving him his last rites. And, all of his vital signs weren't even there. And actually, he heard his son saying, Daddy, you have to come back. But I want to tell you the most amazing thing that happened. So, when he had the near death experience, all of a sudden, and this will happen a lot, they'll be rising up and, they go into the light. And then there'll be some kind of a very beautiful scene, usually something with nature and amazing amount of flowers. And keep in mind that it is always that you are in this incredible experience of love. And it's a love that it's not possible on this side of the veil, but it's so profound over there. That's why a lot of people don't want to come back.
Okay.
So in his particular experience, uh, sometimes they have what they call where you see a movie of your whole life. And I have an example of that I want to read here in a minute. But so suddenly there was this really beautiful woman that was next to him, and they were just kind of flying and, looking down at wherever they were. And it was a beautiful nature scene. And he remembered her because she was very beautiful. She was very kind. And they always tell you that we love you. And, it's all kind of nurturing and wonderful things. I got the chills thinking about it. And it turned out that when he did come back, a lot of times they think it's a miracle that anybody came back because they were so sick. So then he ended up writing his book, Proof of Heaven. And I don't know, it's in the book. I don't remember the exact uh, sequence, but it turned out that he was adopted. And his birth parents found him at some point. I don't know if it was a result of his book, but anyway, he went to their house to meet them. And he was walking through the house, and there was this picture of a beautiful woman. And they said, oh, yes, that was a sister of yours, but she passed away. And he looked at the picture and he said, that's the woman that accompanied me in my near-death
Oh,
experience.
wow. Wow.
So these are the kinds of things that
Mm-hmm.
happen. A lot of times they'll see their life and what's going to happen. They'll see other people
Mm-hmm.
that they don't know, but then it turns out that they somehow come into their lives.
Okay.
And when we get to the sheet, I like one of my favorite books, and I have
Mm-hmm.
it in there. But I think that what's so wonderful both about near and shared death experiences that it teaches us to realize that this is only one aspect of our being.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we don't even really know who we are. And as some people believe that there's been past lives. So to have a near death experience or learn about these shared death experiences teaches us to really explore how much bigger reality or a simulation or whatever this
Mm-hmm.
might be really is.
Okay. And
you
can I
know?
just sort of ask, because you just brought it up very, very briefly, because it seems to me that what happens is that here on this planet, we're living in a very three-dimensional kind of
Yes.
existence. It's very, very dense. It's very, very strict in terms of its physical rules. And if I understand correctly, I'm thinking to someone like I'm thinking to someone like okay, I can't remember his name now. But when you go into the near death or the other world beyond the
Hmm.
veil, there is no time. There is Edgar Casey. That's it. Edgar
Oh,
Casey talks
absolutely.
about, yeah, and Edgar
Yeah.
Casey talks about there's no
Yeah.
time. There's
No
just the
time and
now.
space.
Excuse me, and it's just here. And so
Hmm.
it seems that you can see everything at once because you're just in existence, but at a different
Right.
dimensional
Right.
level. Now, is this a part where you can, let's say, see your past lives? Like, are you able to sort of turn around and sort of say, "Oh,
Well,
yeah, this is my
there's
past
a
life right
couple of
here and
things.
there." I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a couple of examples, and one of them is this book, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers.
Okay.
And it's just a small book, but he actually, and the story's in the book, but he died. He actually, I say crossed over now.
Hmm.
I don't really like to use
Yeah, I
stuff.
don't
And
like to use that word either. Yeah,
when
I prefer
people do
crossed over.
die, I'm a little sensitive now when they'll say to the person, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I am sorry for you
Hmm.
because you have to go on without this person, but we
Yeah.
definitely don't need to be sorry for the person that
No,
crossed
no,
over
they did better.
because they are in pure love
They're
and
happy.
it's
We're
better.
fine. We're fine.
Yeah,
You know.
they are fine. So, but I wanted to read you something that I just happened to see on Facebook the other day with a guy whose talk I almost missed at IANS.
Okay.
So and his name is Ishtar Howell,
Okay.
and it's in the sheet that you'll give everybody. He
Hmm.
said, in a near-death experience, oh, it's called a life review. That's what you were asking for.
Okay.
In a near-death experience, I was shown the highlights of my life. They were not at all what I had expected. Instead of focusing on moments of personal heroism or the times that I might have made a difficult but not the right choice, I was brought to memories of what I took to be daydreaming. Of course, it wasn't just daydreaming. It was daydreaming so deep, it was dreaming awake moments in which my ego dissolved into something vast, like samadhi. So he saw himself as a third grader looking into a puddle, and he fell into samadhi. And for half a minute at age 9, I was everywhere and nowhere in perfect silent presence. In the second memory, I was 8 years old, looking at out the classroom window, dreaming awake while looking at the autumn leaves of the maple trees. The omniscient consciousness was adamant that these moments held the core of why I'm here in my body. Nothing to do with a fancy job, good grades, future romance, chasing a place in history, being a good person, or any of the markers of success that I'd been encouraged to follow. No, no, no. I was to spend as much time as possible falling into everything and melting into the joy of original innocence. Life was meant to be experienced as a bliss song, and I was to remember how to sing. And at the heart of all of us are being, we're called to remember this same bliss song.
Okay.
I got the chills, of
Oh,
course,
wow. That's
when I was
nice.
reading that, but that's a really good example.
Hmm.
And again, when people do come back, they have a totally different,
Yeah.
and I think about that sometimes when things are hard. And, when you're on the other side, we only see a certain amount of spectrum of light and we only hear a certain amount. And sometimes when I walk in nature, which I do regularly every day, and I highly recommend it, I
Hmm.
always try to imagine if I could see all the spectrum of light, that tree would be like vibrating and there would be all these different colors.
Yeah.
So again, it helps to bring you into your body and to realize really how magnificent life is. So make the most of it while you're here. I can't
Exactly.
promise that I do that every day,
Hmm.
but I think it's a good idea.
Okay, that's great.
So let's see. I was going to, and probably you've heard of Anita Morjani.
I've heard
She's
of
a very
Anita
famous
Marjani. Yeah.
near-death person, and her body was full of, I don't remember, but like dozens of huge tumors, and there was just no way that she was going to survive at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she went into the near death experience, she saw her brother flying on the plane. She saw her parents in India. She saw her husband out in the waiting room with the doctor. And so this is very common. And then another, of course, Raymond Moody, you can look him up. He's
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that I studied, him and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, back when I was a teenager, and just telling my grandfather, it's going to be so great.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little thing there where he said, I grew up in Illinois, and he said, well, I'd like to go to heaven, but about 10 years ago, he was a farmer. I sold some pigs and I put the money in a bank in Iowa. So I'm not sure I'm going to go to heaven. So I just thought that was really sweet. And it was, I think he said I put $30 in a bank. Of course, back
Okay.
then it was maybe, 200.
Yeah.
But another one is Damian Brinkley,
Okay.
and you've probably heard of him, and he was struck by lightning. He's died 2 or 3 times and
Wow.
come back.
Repeat offender. My God.
Yeah. And so he's another really good one that you can follow.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put some podcasts in there. And then there's another gentleman named Anthony, and this is all in the sheet,
Yeah.
but he has a number of people that he's interviewed that had near-death experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And that all be in there. And then there's also a guy, Life with Ghosts. His name's Stephen Berkeley, and you can find him on YouTube, and it's Berkley. It's in the sheet that I'm going to give you, but I think it's the first Monday of every month. And so he has different people on too, that have now they're in touch with people on the other side. So that's also another thing that can happen sometimes when you have a near-death experience. You
Oh.
actually acquire those abilities.
Oh, really? So you can actually be communicating with people in real time who are beyond the veil? Oh,
People that have had
okay.
near-death experiences absolutely
Oh,
can do
really?
that. And I'm
Okay.
jealous.
Yeah,
That's what I
because
say, because I didn't have that good of a near-death experience. I thought it was just an out of body, but
okay.
Ada William Peters told me it was an NDE, and I have a lot of respect for him. We'll get into him here in a minute.
Okay.
So,
Um
you want to go on to shared death, and then that kind of brings up more things.
yeah, so we already did the end of life experiences. Did we do that?
Yeah, well, that's a little bit like, um, people will come into your room
Mm-hmm.
because they're coming to get you. And
Okay.
so the person who's dying will see that. So I'm going to tell you about one of the shared death experiences because I'm more familiar with those because that's what I've been studying.
Okay.
So let me find my
Mm-hmm.
um oh
And
my gosh.
somebody brought up here, we have somebody who brought up, I love the work of Dr. Christopher Kerr, work on end life visioning. Have you ever heard of Dr. Christopher
I
Kerr?
have not.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Well,
what I mean. There's so much out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just incredible how much is out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why I can't see my okay. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Um, so let's go to yeah, I think is the next one is the conductor, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
Okay, so actually let's talk about shared journeys to the afterlife. I don't know that we did that one.
okay. So
Yeah.
shared journey to the afterlife. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you all can read that, but it's an experience in which loved ones or caregivers or sometimes, nurses, whoever, they're in the proximity of the dying person, but they don't have to be. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a really big aspect that I want to make sure that you understand, that everybody understands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they actually they witness what the dying person is experiencing. So I'm just going to tell you a couple of stories. Let me see what the next slide is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and we can leave it there on the conductor and souls for a minute. But just
Sure.
to give you, I have a couple examples of those. And shared crossing on the first and third Wednesdays, and you can go to their website and sign up for it. People come in and tell the stories of their shared death experiences. We don't record it because it's pretty personal, but if you want to sign up for those things, you can do. And I think that's also in my sheet that I'm going to pass out.
Okay.
But there's a couple that just blew me away. So one of them is this guy, I think he was from Tennessee, and he was taking care of his dad, and they knew the dad was going to pass pretty soon, but it was a hot day and he wanted to mow the lawn. So he's on one of those, uh, mowers that you drive.
Okay.
And gosh, oh, I had put this light on but the battery ran out. Hold on a
Oops.
second.
Okay. Well, guys, while she's fixing the light,
Oh, that's better.
oh, is
Yeah.
that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to say, if you
And we
want to
can,
put in the chat and let us know if you've had, I know there's a lot of activity in the chat, but if you've had
oh,
your
good.
own personal NDE, please put in the chat. We can share it with everyone. Okay.
Yes. And I think one of my friends, Lisa, is here.
Mm-hmm.
And she's had a couple, I believe, but
Okay.
definitely with her father.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy's mowing the lawn, and all of a sudden he starts seeing kind of like, stars and sort of almost like a rainbow and just all these different colors. And he's thinking, what is that? So he thought, well, it must be really hot. So he finished mowing the lawn, and he told his wife, I'm just going to go out and sit on the veranda. I'll go see my dad later because, I don't know what's happening. So he's sitting there on the deck, and all of a sudden, there's his dad and his uncle, and they're right in front of him.
Oh.
So this is what we call a remote, okay?
Okay.
Because he wasn't there with his father. And I'll go over some of the coding. I have an 18-page thing of codes, but
Mm-hmm.
so he sees his dad and his brother, and they're both like really happy, and they're just kind of standing there. So he's like, what? So he turns and he looks back, and that's where he sees that line of all those ancestors. And it lasted a really long time. It lasted maybe like 4 or 5 minutes, which is a really long time that
Okay.
they were actually there. And then he could see how happy his dad was and that all these people were there, but he still didn't quite get it. And then his wife came outside and said, oh, honey, your mom just called and your dad passed away.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So this is kind of how it works.
Okay.
Another one that I want to tell, and I don't know how we're doing on time.
Oh, we're doing
and
fine. We're doing
I'm
fine
going
on
to
time.
share at least two
Yeah.
or three or more.
Yeah,
But
sure.
so I believe, and it's a lot of just from what I've studied,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe that when you cross over, that you actually plug into, people have talked about Indira's net, but it kind of reminds me like if they're going to put all those things on your head, if they're doing some kind of a brain, they want to see your brain or
Yeah.
what's reacting. And there's all those different nodes.
Yeah.
And I just sort of believe that when you cross over, that you actually plug into one of those nodes.
Okay.
I'm not saying that there's one there exactly for you, but you plug into something,
Okay.
and there's a whole lot of things that happen because it's everything everywhere all at once, which I loved that movie.
That movie was great. I love that movie.
And I think it's kind of like that. And so let me tell you there was this woman, she was a great grandmother. So she and the daughter and the granddaughter and the great granddaughter, they were all there by the bed. I think she was in her late 90s, and she was very, very weak. And this is another thing happens oftentimes before people die. They might even like be in a coma, and they'll usually call you and say, hey, we think it's about time. And then they'll get this thing that they call it a rally. Mm-hmm. And the person will wake up, and even a lot of times, like if they're, have dementia or whatever, they'll wake up and they're completely coherent and they know everybody and they recognize everybody and they just have this great moment. Mm-hmm. And then they'll usually die shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were all with this grandmother. And like I said, she was very weak. And all of a sudden, the girl said that her eyes became like Caribbean blue, mm-hmm. and light was coming out of her body everywhere, just that bright, bright light. And then all of a sudden, she just sort of reached up like that, because they do come to get you. And I've got the slide there for the conductor.
Okay.
And so the great granddaughter, when she was the one who was telling us the story, well, she and her mom, and she couldn't stop saying the knowledge was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. So apparently, what was happening with her anyway is that everything that the grandmother was experiencing, she was also experiencing, and she actually believed that she knew everything
Yeah,
of all time.
but I've
And
heard
I
of that.
really think that's what happened because we just go back to that, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, but I've heard of that before, and I've heard about somebody who said that they had had a near-death experience, and that they were in front of this big light that I guess you want to call the divine God, whatever you want to call it. And she says that she would ask a question and just the answer would come. Like ask a question, and
Yeah.
the answer would come. And she said it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what I was asking, all it was just it all came and
All
so I
right.
could ask anything and any
Yes.
wild question, it all came in, so it's all there. But it seems weird because this also ties in with some ideas of how we come to this earth to have the experience of forgetting, because usually when
Yeah.
we're in that, and I'm not even talking about the near death experience, I'm just talking about
Yes.
being on the other side, we know everything. We are, because we are everything. Because we are all part. We go back home and we become, a raindrop in the ocean, as it were.
I
And
love this
you
topic.
know,
I get the chills
I know,
nonstop.
I know it's so much fun, but it's just sort of weird how we come here to forget. And I don't know. Did you want to comment on that? Because even though it's not a near-death experience in itself, what are we doing coming here with the forgetfulness and and not being connected to our ancestors and all that kind of stuff, to come here to go through all this craziness, especially at the third dimensional level, only to sort of go back and say like, "Oh God, that was a crazy dream." Like, I don't know if you wanted to comment,
I
even though it's separate from, let's say, the near death experience. What's going
Right.
on? What are
And
we
I,
doing?
I know you've had, some really brilliant people on here that are
Yeah,
much more connected with the other side, channelers and all
yeah,
those
yeah.
kind of people. But my understanding is that because we know everything,
Mm-hmm.
we could not function if we came back here, even as a infant. So and they say we choose our parents, which
Yeah, I've
I've
heard that.
heard that for years, and we can play with that one, but we have to forget everything because how could we possibly live this life if we knew of other lives? Although there's a woman named Sarah Cosme, oh, somebody may know her name, but she does Dolores Cannon's
Mm-hmm.
deep hypnosis where
Yeah.
people go into their past lives. I highly recommend that as well because you can get a lot of the history of the earth
Mm-hmm.
actually from these people. But they're the ones too where you kind of find out what all their previous, they talk about their previous lives, just like, oh yeah, and I had this kind of a suit or whatever, I was in Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't really doubt much of anything anymore
No.
because I think for the most part we're pretty ignorant and we're pretty hedonistic, and just like I had heard that quote the other day, we're here to experience and learn and grow and transform and create deep relationships with ourselves, and we're so busy, going to Costco.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I think it's really good to embody some of this, and I think it actually makes it a lot easier to endure life the way it is right now
Mm-hmm.
because it's such a gift.
Yeah.
It's a miracle. And as a functional medicine nutritionist, I can tell you that when you learn about all the different organs and what they do, there were times when I would almost literally cry because it was so, I just didn't realize how incredibly powerful the body is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and what it
Yeah.
can do.
That's what I've heard.
But let's go back to the conductor of souls
Okay.
in the in the
In the slides. Okay. So
in the
we're here, conductor
slides.
souls.
So it says many individuals who have a near-death experience tell stories describing encounters with a deceased relative, spiritual or religious figures. And I think it has a lot to do with whatever your belief system was. That definitely might influence what you see.
Okay.
And there is a really interesting story in the afterlife of Billy Fingers
Mm-hmm.
because he told his sister after a while, I can't talk to you anymore because your frequency is so low
Mm-hmm.
that I really just need to move on. And another thing, when he said, yeah, I saw my wife one day because she wrote the book of things that he was telling her, but she was just a bright light all different colors of light. And he didn't think anything about what he'd done to her or what the relationship was or anything like that. It was just about love and
Okay.
beauty. So these beings are sometimes perceived as guides or sources of a profound, peaceful wisdom, leading to a review of the angel's life, because that'll happen. In Billy Fingers, his happened really fast, and there wasn't anything negative. He saw different choices that he could have made.
Okay.
So for everybody, it's different. And when you get that handout from me, and there's so many movies about near-death experiences,
Hmm.
so we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But um, divine beings who are guiding the soul through the transition. Yeah, what I was going to say is with the granddaughter, with the woman that had, all the knowledge and the colors and everything. I'm having a complete.
Yeah. But you know what though, when it comes to knowledge and exploring, it's funny. I have a
I know.
client. I have somebody here, a member, saying, "B Annie says so. We are born on the other side that we come here and to evolve the soul." And
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of thinking, I'm sort of in the middle of answering that and saying, well, I think it's more about, it's not so much about boredom as it is about just seeing a different perspective. Because, like, I mean, to see something from a different perspective. And I think the way I would put an analogy to that is saying, I can watch all the documentaries I want about Scotland. Okay, I love Scotland. And I can watch all the movies and I can watch all the documentaries and all that kind of stuff. But it's only when you go to Scotland and you experience it for
Mm-hmm.
yourself in your own
Mm-hmm.
body and you travel there and you have the actual experience and you're walking on the ground that you
Mm.
really know Scotland. And
You
even
know,
if you go
that's
there once, you can't go just go. I mean, you can go once, I guess, but like, I mean, if you go back another time, there'll always be something different. So I think,
yes.
BN, it's more from that perspective, and it's, I can say I'm not
Yeah.
going to
And let
go,
me
but
say too,
you know,
um, there's a guy, Matthias De Stefano, and I highly recommend the
yeah,
Gaia
Matthias and
channel.
Stefan on Gaia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And one thing that he's got a new series out. It's called Initiation, and he
yeah.
pretty much explains everything, and it's profound. But he gives this metaphor, which I think is really good. He says that it's sort of like uh, there could be a librarian,
Hmm.
and that librarian could read every book in the library.
Yeah.
But if they never leave the library,
Hmm.
even though they know everything,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have the
Exactly.
experience.
That's what I
And
mean.
that's why we come
Yeah,
here.
exactly. So you can go to
Built again.
Scotland, you can
Yeah.
watch the documentaries, or you can go and
Yeah.
get on a plane and go
Yeah.
there and actually
Yeah,
feel,
because then
you
you're going
know,
to smell it, you're going to feel it, you're
feel
going to
it.
taste it,
Yeah,
all
exactly.
those senses
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah.
But I want to talk about the conductor
Yeah, sure.
because that's a really interesting aspect. So the woman whose grandmother was brilliant colors,
Mm-hmm.
um, then, so I don't know why we oftentimes say he, but
Mm-hmm.
there's an entity that will often come,
Okay.
and I think it's William Peters that gave the word a conductor, but it could be somebody else.
Okay.
But suddenly there was this very, very, apparently the being is very tall and a little bit of like I think that's where from the beginning of time where ghosts come from,
Okay.
because there is oftentimes when somebody's getting ready to pass, there'll be kind of like a like fog in the room, some
Okay.
kind of a white or a ghostish type of a
Mm-hmm.
fog.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular time with her, the conductor had on some kind of a robe, but again, it can always be kind of what we're used to. But and sometimes a crown or some kind of a halo.
Okay.
And their job, their goal is to come and to literally scoop up this loved one and cross the veil with them.
Okay.
So she saw that, and that's when she got all the knowledge too. I think what happened was the conductor said, "Look, I'm going to give you all this knowledge because I need to take your grandmother."
Okay.
And then there was another woman one time where she was, lying next to her mom, and she knew the mom was going to pass, and she kept falling asleep, like she wasn't even trying to, in a deep, deep sleep. And then she would finally wake up and be so afraid that maybe she missed something.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the doorway was this conductor
Mm-hmm.
who was trying to say, look, I've got some things I need to do here. And I had to put you to sleep so that you could allow me kind of to do my job. And I'm,
Okay.
putting in a more earthly uh,
Okay.
example.
Yeah.
Um, I
But
think, go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to know, and I know we sort of talked about this briefly when we were making the slides, and I know that sometimes Hollywood and sometimes popular culture, especially in the West, sort of always has a tendency to want to give a very negative perspective. And we often
Mm-hmm.
think of the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper comes with like the dark hood and the
Mm-hmm.
sickle and all that kind of stuff.
Right,
And
right.
I feel that that's more of a negative perspective, and I just don't see that. And again,
Yeah.
Hollywood has a tendency to sort of give it more of a sort of like a. If I had to go, I would be like, okay, let's bring in Morgan Freeman. Like he's the voice of God.
Yeah, there's a good
Why
one.
not? Like
Exactly.
Morgan Freeman
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Bruce Almighty. But like, I mean, something like that. But it just seems to be more of a guide. You just have a spirit guide, a
Yeah.
spirit guide who's going
Right.
to guide you to where
Right.
you have to go, And I mean, I don't think it
Yeah.
has to be a man, But again, Hollywood, Morgan Freeman. No? What do you think?
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Here's another one that's just, I love it. So this was a woman, and this was what, on the shared death on Mondays and Monday and Wednesdays, once a month,
Okay.
first and third. This was her story. So she had a really good friend, and I'm not even sure, and I want to go over a few things. Sometimes you're there with the person that's passing, but sometimes you're not. And sometimes it could be like 3 or 4 months later. There's all
Mm-hmm.
different ways that
Mm-hmm.
you actually experience something of someone who's already crossed over. So in this instance, I don't really think she was with the friend, but all of a sudden she knew the friend was somewhere and that she was getting ready to pass. And all of a sudden, she, there were a lot of lights, and she definitely was not in the present moment. And all of a sudden, she was on this beach, and there were all these people coming, and there was kind of a procession, and everybody was very excited, and there was kind of a stage there, and she was looking around, and everybody was saying, "Oh, the guest of honor isn't here yet. The guest of honor isn't here." So then eventually there was her friend, and she came up onto the stage and she thanked everybody, and they had this wonderful celebration. But when she came up into the stage, she had this dress on. And so her friend remembered the dress. About, I don't know, sometime later, 2 or 3 weeks later, this friend gets a catalog in the mail, and she doesn't even get catalogs. And she opens up the catalog, and the page that she opens up to is the dress that her friend was wearing when she was in the shared death experience
Oh,
with her.
wow. Wow.
Is there chills out
Yeah.
there,
Yeah,
perhaps?
yeah, yeah. Chills, chills.
So this is what I mean.
Wow.
It's so profound
Mm-hmm.
that I think all we can really do is just open our hearts and our minds
Mm-hmm.
and see if we might not be able to tune into some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I tell some of these stories, especially to people that are in nursing homes or whatever,
Yeah.
that they could be like far more excited and maybe think to themselves, why should I be so afraid of this if it's that great?
Yeah.
When the time comes, I'll be happy to
Yeah,
go,
exactly. But again,
you
that's
know?
the Western perspective. I don't think that's the case
Right,
in
right.
other cultures. But can I just ask you a question? It's a bit more of a personal thing. Um, you said there are different ways that these shared death experiences can happen. There's
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you hear these stories about how people say that they have loved ones that stick around for a little while before actually leaving. And I had that. And the reason why I'm asking is I had that. My mother had passed away in February. And over the months, I did feel her. I could smell her. I could smell her her body. Like she had a certain, everybody has a
Yes,
certain kind of
yes,
scent, and I could smell her.
yes,
And every once in a while, the
yes.
scent would just like whoosh, like wash over me. And a couple of times, I sort of heard like there was like a bit of rustling in a closet and stuff like that. So there was that. And then on towards the end of the year, just on the morning of my birthday, I
Oh,
was dark and I was in a bedroom, but the sunlight was starting to slowly come in. It was at so in
mm-hmm.
the winter it's not as bright, and I could see a shadow walking by and looking at me, and then just and walking out the door and leaving. And the night before, I'd had a dream about my mother, and my mother and I
Ah,
were sitting on the couch, and she seemed a bit sad to leave, but I think it's because we were very close. And
mhm.
so when I woke up in the morning, when you're in the wake up in the morning, you're sort of in between dream and waking. And
Yes.
that's when I saw her sort of walk away and then just sort of walk out the door. And it's sort of from how I could, translate it, is that she wanted to be with me for about a year, and then on my birthday, be there for my birthday, and then leave. You know?
You know what? That's called a flyby.
Okay.
I mean, not exactly, but that's one where, maybe after, way after that, the person will
Mm-hmm.
either they'll appear or the sense of them being there
Yeah.
will appear.
But you know what
Yeah.
was interesting though is that a couple of months later, I remember having a dream, and I feel like I was definitely the observer, and I saw, like, I was across the street, and it seemed to be something like Singapore. I don't know why. Singapore
Hmm.
in the late 60s. Don't ask me why. And there was a young man across the street, and somehow I knew that that was my mother. She had now
Oh my God.
reincarnated into this person, and
Well, that's
was, I
wonderful.
know, and I was sitting there and I was looking. I said, "That's my mom." Like, because
It was a
when I
knowing.
after my birthday and everything, I didn't feel her around anymore. I like before I really felt her, like she was there, like around me, and then when she left the morning of my birthday, I didn't feel her at all, and I felt that okay, she had made sure that I was okay. She wanted to make sure that I was fine,
Exactly.
and everything was
Yeah.
good. Okay, now I know that you're good. I can leave now. Okay, fine. So she went off,
Yeah.
and I think that that time when I had that dream, and I've never had anything like a dream like that before, like before or since. And I just knew that this
Oof.
young man, he was a bit worried and he was a bit flustered and he was sort of across the street. But I remember he was
And
sort
this
of
was a
Asian.
dream.
And
Was
this
a
was a
dream.
dream. No, and I could see him, and I could see that I just, something just said, that's my mom in this person. She is now having this new life
Exactly.
in
That's
that
so
person.
wonderful.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. It was very interesting. And for some
Yeah.
reason, it said Singapore in the late 60s. It definitely wasn't now. The way his clothes and
Yeah.
everything and his
Well, that's the
hairstyle,
other thing
you
is
know.
the future and
Yeah, it's all the
past
same.
is
It's all the
it's
same.
all there.
So.
There's a woman who I just recently met because I went to a writer's retreat that was phenomenal.
Hmm.
And, I told you I'm going to write this memoir.
Yeah.
But so she got a call one night that her daughter was in Florida. She lives in Boston or Philadelphia. And they said, we found your daughter's car and her keys, and we
Oh.
found some things on the beach. And so we just wanted to let you know that she's missing. So she flies down there straight away. And the daughter had actually, and she's going to be writing a book about that. Um, so she had actually gone to the beach to spread her dog's ashes.
Okay.
And it was on the Gulf side, I believe. And uh, her phone, she left her phone in the car, but she had keys and a little blanket, and she had a necklace that her mother had given her. So she'd taken that off, and apparently she went into the water. And they did say that there were some riptides at that time. Okay, so my friend flies down there and she goes to the police, and they were really helpful and wonderfully lovely and everything. And they were trying to figure out what happened. So a woman came to the house because the police actually said, "Would you like to have dinner with us or something?" And she said, "Well, I'm an animal spirit, but maybe I could help you."
Hmm.
So sure enough, she was able to get in touch with her daughter, and the daughter told her, "It's very dark and I don't know where I am."
Oh.
And then she proceeded to say that, she struggled for a long time and that she just didn't have the strength and that she finally gave up.
Okay.
So she had died, she had crossed over,
Hmm.
but she was still kind of suspended. And
Hmm.
then this woman who was a channeler or whatever
Mm.
kind of helped her. And then they all got the sense of the daughter rising.
Okay.
And she took the necklace, obviously, that she had given to her daughter.
Hmm.
It's a much longer story, but she
Yeah.
took that necklace. And then one day she was in some kind of a jewelry store, and I think I think it was a bee or something. It had something to do with her daughter. And the necklace on her neck actually lifted off of her neck and went like that. Sort of
Oh,
pointed to this necklace that she was looking at.
wow.
And of course she bought it. And then that was the one that I saw her wearing. So,
Oh, that's
and I think the
chills.
daughter even said, I had your necklace and there's just some really
Ooh, woo.
wonderful
That
stories.
yeah,
Yeah.
that but that definitely causes chills. But my only question is, what happened? Why was she in the dark? I mean, literally and figuratively.
Because
What happened there?
she was underwater.
Okay.
She drowned. That's
No,
what
that
happened.
part I get, but like, I mean, once she drowned, I mean, I would have thought, oh, there'd be lights
But
coming
she
through the
hadn't
water, and
really
she would,
quite transitioned yet, and maybe she was waiting for her mom to come or
Oh,
something.
okay, okay, that's what
She
it is.
was waiting
Held her
because
back.
I
Okay,
remember them saying, "We're releasing you,"
okay,
or
got
it's
it.
okay, you drown, and
Okay,
I don't
okay.
know the exact details. You'll have to
Mm-hmm.
get the book.
Yeah, and I'm
And
and I'm. It's funny because just a little side note on that. Some people talk about seeing their pets or deceased pets in
oh
the
yeah,
afterlife. That
oh
that would be
yes,
sort of nice. I mean, I'm gonna cry because I
oh
love animals, but like, I mean, I don't know if
yes,
you want to sort of comment. It's a quick comment on that
yes.
one.
I know another story about that. Um,
Hopefully not too
this
sad, or else I'm
guy
gonna cry.
felt really bad about he had to put his dog down and he felt really bad about it.
Yeah, okay.
And this one, I should have looked that up before, but this guy was a playwright and he'd done a lot of things, but someone else, maybe it was his part, somebody else was passing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was having a shared death, and he saw the guy walking down this road, and his dog was there too.
Oh,
And the dog looked back at him and was like really happy. And, he got that because everything's telepathic, obviously. But he got the sense that the dog was telling him, "Hey, I know you had to do that and it was fine and
oh
I'm really
God,
happy." Yeah.
oh
And
God.
I've also been told by some of these animal people,
Yeah.
just, listening to webinars or whatever,
Okay.
that animals actually come back a lot faster.
Okay.
So because they're so needed.
Oh,
And
they
I just
are.
thought that
You
was
know,
really interesting.
dogs especially. We don't deserve dogs. We really
I
don't.
think she said dogs, yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm a dog person,
I
but
love I
yeah.
love all animals, but I mean dogs in particular, they're just so special. But I'm gonna cry
Oh,
now, so I'm just gonna let that go. Next.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm totally there with you.
Yeah.
Um, Let me see what else is in there. Well, I'm going to tell you just another story.
Sure.
So when my mom passed, a couple of things. One is when somebody is getting ready to cross over, bless your heart, honey, I'm hugging you spiritually. Um, uh, the last thing to go is hearing. And I've been trying to forgive myself. When my mom was passing, she had a wonderful kind of a, retirement community home. And they called me one night at midnight and they said, we think it's time that your mother's going to go. I had not studied some of this shared death experience yet. And I was so freaked out that it was finally happening and it was midnight and I was going to call her that night, but I decided not to because I knew that I'd wake up and I was falling asleep. But I'm sure it's all fine because we'd talked about everything. But the deal is that we were always, so I should have said, put the phone to her ear. And I should have just said, leave the phone there and I'll just talk to her as she goes. So I just want to tell people that because you have that opportunity, even if
Okay.
they're far away from you,
Yeah.
if
I did
somebody
that
can
with
just
my mom too. I spoke with her just before I left the hospital because she was in a coma, and I said,
oh,
okay,
and then a lot of times
you
too,
know.
they want you to leave. You know how somebody say, I just left for 5 minutes. Sometimes they want to
Yeah, I
go
know my
alone.
mom didn't want me there. I remember my mom said, whatever happens, don't have me hooked on machines. I don't like that.
Yeah,
And I knew she
yeah.
didn't really want that. So I said, okay. But I said, let me just come and say, Ma, I love you. You're always, I love you forever. And that was
Mm.
it. And then when I left, she died soon after. So I know that they
I
don't,
think that's the conductor.
yeah. Oh,
I
okay.
think that's the conductor that
Okay.
because they have a job to do. And then maybe it's harder too for the person because they're kind of trying to hold on.
Exactly.
So my mother and I had a deal that she was going to, I have a lot of mobiles, and she
Okay.
was going to jiggle some of these mobiles at some point just to tell me she was there.
Okay.
And that's never happened. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
been 6 years. She died on the 10th of August. And then I'm sorry, her birthday was on the 10th of August and she crossed over on the 17th, just
Okay.
this past month.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm out by the bay and I'm walking and I'm just saying, Mom, just give me a sign. You got to give me a sign. It's been 6 years. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
10 years before she died, she had ovarian cancer, and we took her to a place in Loma Linda. It's down in Southern California called the City of Hope. And I think it's kind of like a Shriners thing. I mean, we paid, but it also takes in people that can't pay. And
Okay.
it's a good place to donate if you want to do that.
Okay.
And she lived 10 years after that.
Okay.
And we always attributed that to City of Hope.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking back from the bay, and I had done some work out there and tried to communicate with her. Just give me a sign.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking back to my car and I look down and it's in the gravel and there's a whole bunch of cars and everything. And I look down in the gravel and I see something that has some color and I pick it up and I'm going to show it to you.
Okay. City of Hope. Wow. Okay. Now, if you don't get chills from that, I don't know what will give you chills. I swear
Like
to God.
lift your and the thing is, where did this, and it's got like
Yeah.
a two of clubs on the back, and it just says, City of Hope is one of the only 15 cancer centers in National Comprehensive Cancer Network. What?
What are the chances? What are the
I'm telling
chances
you.
of that happening? Of all the
Yeah,
places, of all the things
yeah,
that could have
yeah.
happened, puff, you got it's one thing if you saw a Coke can. I'd
A
be like, well,
movie
yeah,
or a,
I'd be like, well, a
yeah.
Coke can, a lot of people drink Coke and they leave it long. Okay, there you go. But City of Hope? Hmm.
This card, and it's not even the size of a real playing card. So
No.
some must have been a deck of some of these, and this is so
Wow.
that's what I was trying to get off my wall. So that was totally wonderful.
That's pretty.
Um,
I have a quick comment here if I could just sort of read it here. I
yeah,
have a
and let's
comment.
also
Yeah, I have a comment here from one of our members, Linda Reinhardt, and she says, "My mom was worried about negative beings coming for her when she died, and she was scared to go. What does Susie think about that? Did you want to comment on that, Susie?"
well, I think that it's something that your mother must have learned or believed. I mean, she could, even like scary movies, something must
Yeah.
have happened to her in her life that she formed this belief that that could be a potential. Could have been a scary movie of some kind.
Yeah, but
That's
I
why
could
I
have
don't
the
like.
West,
Pardon me?
Back in the West, we have a lot. That's what I was saying. I mean, Hollywood,
Yes,
we
yeah.
always have these
But I
negative, the Grim
really,
Reaper and all that.
I will say one thing that
Yeah.
Billy Fingers says toward the end. So he says to his sister, it's been so wonderful, but I can't stay with you any longer because it's too mundane is what
Yeah.
the way I interpreted it. But so then he said, eventually you get the opportunity and you can kind of choose where, I don't know what it was, where you want to go or whatever. All I
Okay.
know is that he said that there was a place. He decided to go with the Brahmins. And I think too that if you study the Upanishads and some of
Hmm.
the Rig Vedas, not only is it all quantum physics, and
Okay.
they knew this way long time ago,
Hmm.
but it's also uh, I don't know. I'm sorry, my brain is,
Yeah.
and we got off to that weird start. Anyway, he said that there's a place that people, and I'm just going to say, and it's not any offense to anybody, but people that were like really, really religious and were so afraid of sin, that they sinned and they were going to go to hell and all that,
Hmm.
really horrible things. There's actually a place where they go and
Okay.
kind of get deprogrammed.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what he said. It's in the
Okay. Wow.
book,
But
So he said there actually is a place
okay.
where people that still are they realize maybe that
Hmm.
they're not alive
Hmm.
on Earth and they're scared that, they're going to go to hell or whatever. And so
Hmm.
then I was thinking maybe that's because I have some things in the thing that we're going to pass out
Yeah.
I have some links to some people like back in the 40s when they used to do seances and things, and they
Okay.
would
Yeah,
talk to
yeah.
people that were on the other side. So
Hmm.
I think that's where a lot of that comes from. That's how we know that. Maybe that's even where purgatory came from
Yeah.
someday,
Yeah.
you
But you know
know.
what though? I'm going to be honest though, because I have heard and I've seen documentaries on NDEs, and there are some people that do talk about that they passed on, and they didn't say that they had sinned in particular. But there's this one man who talked about how he was walking along. He knew that he was at some interdimensional whatever have you, and he was walking along and you could see people suffering, you could see people really moaning, and that there were some
Mm,
sort of like people were in pain, and it was just a negative view, and it didn't so much touch him, but he saw it. And
mm,
so there, and I remember my mother telling me a story about a guy, a friend of hers, who she knew about, who had passed away, who had recently passed away. And she had a dream that night, and she says that this guy ran into her room and said, "Oh my God, you got to help me. They're going to take me away. They're going to find me." And she was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And she said that, yeah, this guy did do some things that were made to be a bit shady. And she says that these what looked like Nazi, thug booted soldiers were they're
mm,
running into the room and dragged him away. And if you remember that scene from the movie Ghost that came out in the '90s with,
mm-hmm.
Ghost, that came out with what's her name there,
Demi
Demi
Moore or
Moore,
Whoopi
yeah,
Goldberg.
and
Yeah,
Patrick Swayze. And
yeah.
the guy's friend was an investor who was really very shady. And he unfortunately had an accident and was caught in the window sill, and he was killed anyways. And then his body sort of snaps, like his soul sort of pops out of his body, and he's looking around and he realizes he's dead, and all of a sudden you hear these horrible sounds like, and you see these dark shadowy fingers, scratching at him, and he's like, "Oh no, stop it," and they drag him away. And I've heard of
I
stuff like
think,
that. I don't know. No, again, that's Hollywood, but I
yeah,
have heard of
yeah.
people talking about seeing some negative stuff.
I've heard,
You know,
and I remember sometime not too long ago, there are some people that have had really negative
yeah,
near-death
they've
experiences.
seen stuff.
And I think it's just sort of the dark side that's kind of always there,
Okay.
and we have to focus more on the light. Two things I want to do. One is because I
Hmm.
think so. Let's go to in the
So after the conductor slide, we go to the next
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Okay. So what is a
You
shared
read
death
my mind.
experience?
So let's
Okay.
just look at the shared death experience. There's just a couple of things there.
Okay.
But the thing that I want to say, and then this is what we call the spectrum of the end of life.
Hmm.
So there's uh, where they're approaching death, and then the actual death, and then the after death.
Hmm.
So that's really interesting. You've got the pre-death premonitions, the visions and visitations that we talked about, that terminal lucidity for a while, the rally. And then there'll be a lot of synchronicities in there, both before and after the
Hmm.
crossing over. And then in the post death is where you again may have like I remember this one woman, every time she would go to the beach, she would just see her mom walking on the beach with
Hmm.
the flowing dress and all of that, So that's kind of again but Crystal, let's play this Scott Taylor
Hmm.
uh, with his shared death experience. You have that video?
Yeah. So I think we will try to get
Yeah,
to that
and then
video.
while you're pulling that up, if you
Hmm.
want to click on
Okay. I'm
the
just gonna
tree that's
pull.
in there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pull the video. But tell
Yeah,
us a little
this
bit
just
more um, about that video. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, this is a guy, Scott Taylor, and he's a big ions guy. And there's also a place called the Monroe Institute. It's Munroe.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of courses that you can take there. And um, I wasn't even aware of it until a couple of years ago. And I haven't even, you know, it's really hard to take in all the different information and have the time to do all of that. But I would highly recommend that people look into that. I think that's on my sheet that I'm going to give everybody. But if
Okay.
you put up the tree while you're looking for that video,
Sure. Let me just
um,
but so
that's
basically it's
so
a
what happened with Scott is that he uh, was was in love with this woman,
mm-hmm.
and I don't think they were married, but I think maybe they were going to get married. And also, she had a son that he was very, very close to,
Okay.
and they got in a really bad accident, and she died straight away, and the son was in the hospital. So Scott was in the hospital trying to. Do you want me to try to find it?
Yeah, if you could. But sorry, tell us
I
a little
don't know
bit
if
more
we
about
can
it.
share. Oh, I found it if you want to share my
Yeah,
screen.
sure. Well, you can share your yeah, if you want to go ahead.
I just want YouTube to know they really threw us off today, huh?
Yeah,
But
they really
okay.
did. It's kind of weird because
Okay,
this
let's
stuff's not
see
working.
here. I don't know if I see share my screen.
Okay.
Oh, here it is. Okay, great. Now let's just see if that's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Share.
Okay, we got
Oh,
it.
are you seeing that picture of Scott there?
Yeah, did you want to make it bigger so we can see? Yeah,
Oh,
make it
I
a bit
don't know
bigger.
if I can, honey. I'm a Luddite. Let
Okay,
me play it. Make sure we can.
sure. I don't think we're hearing the sound.
No.
Okay.
See
Well,
if you can find it because I sent
yeah,
it to you.
sure.
You can't hear that?
No, we
Bummer.
can't, unfortunately. Yeah. But when you talk about when you're talking about, so just tell us a little bit more about that video. We'll try to get it up.
Now I have to.
So just tell us a little bit more about it, though.
Okay, I was almost thinking. So this was back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was then. So he was in the hospital with the son, and when the son was getting ready to pass, she actually came to him
Mm-hmm.
and they were able to say goodbye. And she was, able to tell him that she was okay and that everything was fine and that she loved him. And then they were both there to help the son to also cross over. I'm so sorry. Maybe while we're talking, you can find it. And maybe we can also go to the chat and see if some people can, if people have some questions and things. So
Yeah.
then and also, could you pull up the resources page? Because I want to go over that. You're going to send it to them, but I just want to tell everybody
Yeah.
what some of those are.
But can you tell us a little bit more about the tree that we're seeing? Like you said, you
Oh,
had
the
the
tree
tree.
I put in there. The
Mm-hmm.
tree is actually for, where is it now? Let's see. Oh gosh. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just had it. This is
Yeah,
so embarrassing.
it's we're getting
It's
closer
it's really
to
more for grief. It's more for
okay.
grief.
Mm-hmm.
It's just if you look at all those different things in there, and I
I don't know
don't
what it's called.
particularly have it in the uh, there it is.
Okay.
Okay, contemplative arts, journaling, improv, visualizations, loving kindness meditations, establishing a sacred personal space, ceremonies and rituals based in spiritual or cultural traditions. These are things that I thought that might help somebody if they want to take a picture of that. And you've got movement in there, some somatic practices as well.
Mm-hmm.
But these are all things to help somebody to move through grief, to come more into their body, to explore some of these different ways that might help us to open up our minds better and to experience some of these things that we never even knew existed,
Okay.
even to the point where I found City of Hope,
Okay.
that
Wow.
card,
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things. Um, what you believe, you perceive. And if you don't believe that any of those things are possible or anything like that, they
Mm-hmm.
may not be
Wow.
just because you don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want to go, yeah, if we can open up and if anybody has any questions, and we're
Yeah,
getting up
if
there.
guys, if you have any questions, please let us know.
And
I know that we have a lot of
jumped all
comments.
around.
People are very, very active in the chat tonight.
Oh,
And
good.
I know that people are talking. I just wanted to know, when somebody, for example, who is a dictator, that sort of thing. What happens to someone's that kind of a soul? What happens to people like that?
Boy, I can't say. But actually, that's not true. I did hear somebody, oh God, why does my dog need to come up? But I just wanted to show you. I
Sure.
colored my hair the other day and she wanted hers colored too.
Okay.
You're actually locked up right now on my side.
Okay.
But no, somebody, I remember listening to something one day and they said that all of that's gone. When you're on the other side, it's pure love. And that person may see what they call the life review or something, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any guilt or shame or any of those kind of things uh,
Okay.
on the other side. Yeah.
Okay. And
So
so I'm afraid to ask. So someone who is a who is a complete Hitler is
a
not
serial
gonna
killer, whatever.
serial
Yeah.
killer. Okay, so they're not gonna have any issues at all, like
Well, they may have to go to that place where they have to deprogram or something like that, but I don't know. We can ask somebody who's had a near death much more specific and detailed than mine that might
Mm-hmm.
be able to tell you.
Okay,
But
yeah.
so let's go to the
Yeah, I'm trying to get that up here, but
okay. I definitely have that if you want me to
yeah,
share
if you want
screen.
to sort of just pull that up, sure, go ahead.
All right, let's do that. Let's see. Now I got to go back to Zoom, and I don't know why I
If you
have
have
this.
any questions, guys, please put it in the chat, and we can sort of speak to Susie about that. If you have any
I am
questions.
not able to find the Zoom with my picture. When I do the Zoom, it's the
Yeah.
workplace thing because I've got so many things open. Okay.
And you'd mentioned something about you said that you didn't see or didn't go into the light. Is do you understand why when you had your NDE that you didn't go into the light, you just sort of just popped out and then there you go?
I think because I was on morphine. And I have to
Okay.
tell you, I was on morphine.
Okay.
And this was back in 1985. I was a smoker.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Live Aid concert. I had my own room
Oh,
with a
okay.
TV. And I was on morphine, smoking cigs. And I was at the Live Aid's concert.
Wow. Okay.
But I think the reason uh, that I didn't, I think because they just put, I think the morphine was so strong. I mean, who knows? It could have happened. And then if I got hypnotized and, it's probably in there somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not aware of it.
Okay. Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So
a shame that you weren't able to. So the morphine, so even at a physical level, it still
that's what
affects.
I'm thinking because
Yeah.
otherwise I don't know why I didn't, why am I not seeing the Zoom where I can see my face? When I do Zoom, it brings up the workplace thing.
Now
Oh,
I
there
do
things.
have the list of that you
Okay,
sent. I finally pulled it up, so I was able to pull it
great,
up. So I think it starts
great.
off here with the death doulas, near death experiences, and shared death
Right.
experiences. Okay, did you want to sort of go over that?
Yeah. So I have that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
let's just go through each one. Okay. And if you send this document to them, put it in the chat or whatever,
Yeah.
these all have the links.
Okay.
So there's a book that I got from Ions a couple of years ago, and it's
Mm-hmm.
called Impressions of Near-Death Experiences. So there's over 100 people
Mm-hmm.
who talk about their near-death experiences in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is Billy Fingers.
Okay.
And then here's another book, the big book of near-death experiences, the ultimate guide to the NDE.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Billy Fingers.
Mm-hmm.
And then At Heaven's Door, this is a book that William J. Peters, he actually had two near-death experiences. One when he was skiing, and then one, he had a skiing accident, and then one when he got some kind of a blood poisoning, some, bacteria, and he had another near-death experience. And now that he does the shared death experiences, he's going to be coming out with a movie, a documentary, and he actually helps people to be able to maybe experience the shared death. So helps them to like raise their frequency, bring down, I don't know what it is, but I think that because
Mm-hmm.
and then you can see right there, sharedcrossing.com. That's his website.
Okay.
And there's even a few shared death experiences on there in the library.
Mm-hmm.
But because of him having those two shared death experiences, I think that he's had a few since then because he also works with people.
Okay.
Just like with the people I think that have a near death, that they take on more skills, if you will, that they probably didn't really know that they have. It's just easier to touch into that frequency, really, because everything's light and energy, so if you can tune into that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these are the two examples where you see his name. Those are the two examples of his near death experiences.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's all the NDEs of Anita Morjani and some of those people.
Mm-hmm.
um this is another one from iHeart. I don't know, I've had these in him for a long time. This is a YouTube guy, and he has, at least I've seen 20 or 30. I've watched maybe 5 or 6 of them. So he interviews people that had near-death experiences. So I highly recommend to go to his YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think he's also on IONS. And then, of course, you can go to IONS, and I'd love it if you support them. I mean, I think there's 2 different membership levels. But, I mean, we have conferences every year, and everybody's a volunteer.
Okay.
This is a very interesting story about the famous medium. This was the guy back in the 1940s.
Okay.
So everybody can look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is Life with Ghosts with Stephen Berkeley.
Okay.
Now, here's some of the Eben Alexander videos, and his book is Proof of Heaven. But what I liked so much about him was that, he just didn't believe it at all, and he just poo-pooed everybody. And then he got slammed with one of the most profound near-death experiences you could possibly have. And he really was almost pronounced dead.
Okay.
And same with Anita Morjani. When she came back and then told everybody, yeah, I saw you and I saw my brother and I heard what you were saying. Mm-hmm. Slowly but surely, here comes the chills. She was only in the hospital for another day or 2.
Okay.
Or maybe a week. I don't know. But all those tumors went away. Like everything just went away. And her blood work was normal. And I mean, she was like on death's bed with, cancer-ridden body.
Wow. And does she understand what happened exactly? Like why all of a sudden?
She's written a book and she speaks at everything. I'm sure you can Google her.
Okay.
Find her on YouTube.
But she didn't explain why. Did she do something at the veil that got rid of the tumors? I don't know.
It just happened. Well, they told her it wasn't time for that. They always tell them it's not time. You have to go back.
Okay.
And then most of the time they don't want to because it's so much better there.
Yeah, of course.
That's the other thing that I want to tell these people in nursing homes is that it's really better than this.
Okay.
And you've had a good life and you got to come here and you won't have all these bodily issues, And the other thing is that your soul never dies.
Of course.
And everybody talks about that as well. Your soul is infinite. Mm-hmm. It's infinite.
Okay.
So I put, and even you can search on like Netflix and Prime, just put in near-death experiences. There's not a lot on shared death yet, but definitely near death.
Okay.
And there's a lot of afterlife stories there. Mm-hmm. And then, and then I put in here, it's all about the prompts because, in AI, the better your question or your search prompt, the better, movies or stories that you'll get on YouTube or Netflix or Prime, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can actually find quite a few stuff on YouTube, actually.
Oh, yeah.
YouTube has a lot of good stuff.
And books, of course.
Yeah.
So many books. There was another movie, I don't know if I put it in here. You can see, this is the recent copy of the IONS newsletter, which is good because it's got a lot of information on there. Okay. And they have monthly talks of, and then there's a woman named Catherine, and they're all the different groups. She has 2 or 3 groups a month, and she has ET experiencers, and then she has near-death people, not a lot of shared death. So, and then if you sign up with IONS, you have access to all of that.
Okay.
And then the last one, actually, I put in a couple more. Mm-hmm. A woman I know, Deborah Giusti, she wrote a document called Ascension Now.
Okay.
And you can download that document. I gave you the link there. Mm-hmm. And what I like about that is it's a lot of things that you want to consider to kind of get yourself more prepared to be more open to what's out there, whether it be information from the other side. But like I keep, like Billy Fingers said, we're so mundane and we're so caught up in the material world that we're not really open to. And I use the example is that you can't see the different spectrum of light, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
Okay.
So I just thought that would be a nice gift to give everybody. She gives it away free.
Okay.
And it's just some things that you need to do to, improve yourself in such a way that you can be more tuned in and open to what else is actually out there.
Okay.
Now, and then this is another YouTube. It's a podcast with this guy, Robert Copes, and he talks a lot about his book, Impressions of Near-Death Experiences. So there's a whole lot more of those.
Okay, great.
What is this video on his? Oh, I think I did that twice. Okay. Whoops, it's in there twice. Don't worry. And then I just saw this thing from Ishtar, which I read to you yesterday. I mean, I saw it yesterday and I read it to you when we first started.
Okay.
And so I just put that in there again because I just thought it was so beautiful.
Okay.
And the thing is, through meditation, through visualizations, with certain people that lead you on things, you can actually, like I remember on Dia de los Muertos some years ago, I did a thing with Starhawk, if anybody's heard of her. Okay. Oh, that reminds me. See, I thought all these things would come to me, but then with the YouTube mishigas, I got confused. But that's another thing. When you see people, whether it's in a dream or whatever it is, they oftentimes are their younger self.
Okay.
They very rarely appear as their older, sick, close to dying person. You usually see them very healthy and very beautiful and vibrant, and oftentimes younger. I mean, the stories, it's kind of like in their 30s or 40s or something,
Okay, and I think we have if we scroll through you have here, A Guide to Supporting Your Loved Ones at the End of Life, The Good Death by Susan O'Brien.
Oh, yes. So that's she does the end of life doula, and it is a course that you have to take, but she has a book called The Good Death, and she teaches a whole lot of free stuff.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and there's the tree.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, yeah, and then that's actually some of my nutrition stuff, and yeah. So, yeah, I just thought the tree would be a really nice thing for people to, I wanted to give you some gifts. So there's that one. And then, of course, so you can Google her and she's on YouTube. And you can learn a lot more about how to facilitate someone who is in the process of dying, but it might take a very long time. Okay. They'll still have the hospice nurse. You don't do medications. But one of the things that I really liked the most was a coroner or some doulas that are really really experienced, they've done some training, they can pronounce somebody dead. You have to get that legally or the time of death or whatever. Okay. But you don't have to send that person to the morgue. You can keep that body. I think it's 2 or 3 days. Okay. And there's been a lot of stories about people where they kept the body at home. Okay. And that gave a chance for everybody to come in and spend some time with them. And there was one guy I remember told the story where not only was he in communication with his mother, but he just got a lot of closure. And so it enables people to be able to get closure.
Okay.
And then the other thing,
just before we continue, can you tell me the name of that video that you wanted to show? Just I want to see if I can pull it up for people and put it in the chat. What is the name of the video that you wanted to show us?
You mean with Scott Taylor with his shared death experience?
Scott Taylor? Okay, go ahead.
In a text.
Okay.
I sent it to you in a text, and I said, see if you can open this.
Okay.
So see if you can find it. That would be great. And then let me look here because I can see my Zoom totally froze.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Susan, Cygnus Warrior. Any questions here of anybody? Are you reading my questions? Tell her about the don't go into the light idea. It's true. I don't remember. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, I'd actually heard about that. I'd heard some things about how some people said, you shouldn't go into the light and that you really should just sort of ask to go home because by going home, you don't have to go through the whole sort of reincarnation process. Is there any truth behind that?
No, the light is a very good thing.
Okay.
When you go into I'm talking about in a near-death experience,
Okay.
not a shared.
Okay.
In a near-death experience, all you basically do is you go into the light, and almost everybody says they call it God, an entity. They all hear something telepathically, and they feel like it's the I am, I am that I am. I'm just trying to look here. I had a dream of past life where I was a man. Yeah, that's all lemonade. There's all kinds of people that talk about past lives all the time. I mean, and the Gaia channel is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, the Gaia is great.
I think once you really open up to all of this, it's surprising how much more you learn.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, my Zoom completely froze. Oh, there I am.
Okay. I think it's because you're in a lag. So if you're watching it from your side, you're going to get that. But I just wanted to, because we're sort of coming on to the last or so 15 minutes of the show. But I wanted to just say thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about this. And we'll try to send, if I can ask the moderator to sort of put the link. I mean, we already got it in the mailings, but if you want to put,
they got the resources in the
resources. But if I can ask the moderator to put the resources again in the chat, because there are other people who are not on Meetup and who may not get it. So if you want to join us though on Meetup, everyone, if you are watching this video and you're not a part of our group, feel free to join us on Meetup at the Starseeds and Lightworkers Collective, and you can be put on the mailing list for all the different activities that we have and for the upcoming presentation. And as well, if you haven't ordered your Blue Lotus kit, guys, order your Blue Lotus kit and we'll try to get that to you as soon as possible.
But, I don't know about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about that later. Okay. Coming up at the end of the month. But I just wanted to say thank you so much, Suzy, for coming in and talking to us about it, because I think that it gives us a certain perspective that's much more positive, and I think that there's so much doom and gloom on this planet. And you're right, a lot of people that do have the near-death experience often talk about how when they come back, they're not afraid. They have a much more positive view on life. They can be more forgiving. They enjoy life. They actually learn how to live life a lot better.
Absolutely.
Because they don't have the same fears like they had before. So it seems that
with shared death too. With the shared death, that's
Suzy, we were missing half your head. Turn the camera down. We're missing half of your head.
No, I'm in there.
Oh, really? Okay.
YouTube.
Yeah. But you're saying...
and it's funny because when you and I planned all of this, it was like, I don't even need any notes because as soon as I start talking about it, everything will come up. But then with the snafu. Yeah. So you've only got a half of my head. I'm totally looking in there. Is it the good half?
It's only the top half. But, so I just wanted to just say thank you so much for being with us. And I want to just say thank you to everybody for, I apologize as usual. YouTube is giving us a really hard time. So I'm really sorry that we're starting late and that we're having issues. But we're here and we sort of get through it. But I know that the month of November is going to be quite tricky because we're moving into a Mercury retrograde. So we're going to probably continue to have all these kind of craziness. But this too shall pass. So we'll get through that. But
Yeah.
if you have any questions or can they, Suzy, can people get in touch with you if they have questions or comments that they want to sort of share with you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm on, and actually, let's see, I can't share. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Instagram and it's just my name, Suzy Karasik.
Yeah.
But I got, if anybody wants to write this down, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I was on Facebook for like 20 years, all my travels and, people from Malawi and I've been everywhere almost in the Johnny
Mm-hmm.
Cash. I've been everywhere. And I lost everything.
Okay.
So when I finally made a new one, oh, I know, I can put it in the chat
Yeah,
if
you can
that's
put it in the
still
chat,
there.
no problem. And then we can also send out that information as well to our members. And so if you want to, if you're part of the Starseeds and Lightworkers Collective
Yeah,
at
so
the meetup,
that's
then no
my
problem.
Facebook. Did it go in there? Yeah.
Yeah, we really can't see you now. You're completely off. Yeah. So if you want to
That
sort
is
of,
so unfair.
yeah, I know, just bring down your camera a bit and we can see your head, lovely
No, I'm
face.
right in front of my
Okay, there you
camera.
go. Okay, so I think it's
How about
because,
now?
there you go. Now we can sort of see you a bit better.
Okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's Suzanne Suarez Karasik, which is my birth name. So
Hmm.
I just put that in Facebook. How wicked. And
Hmm.
they said you have 130 days, and I wrote them a bunch of times and nobody ever responded. So it was right before Christmas too. That was quite a loss,
Hmm.
but there you go.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll just close with
Hmm.
one time they said, "Oh, you have to go see this Buddhist monk. He's really great." And it was a rainy night. And when I finally got there, it was just about over.
Hmm.
And then afterwards, they'll give a talk, and then somebody will go up and ask a question. Oh, I have a problem with this. And his answer was, "It doesn't matter." And then everybody would kind of giggle, but then he would say, "No, really, it doesn't matter that much." So I
Okay.
think, it's like don't sweat the small stuff and
Hmm.
all the things that people say. I think understanding some of the aspects of dying and the process, and then opening up your mind and your spirituality, you kind of get a better feeling for what really matters and what doesn't, and you can kind of choose what to focus on. And, it's all in our perspective.
Okay.
So I think that we can really have a much better opinion of life and death.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know
We're
what?
both
That
just frantically trying to find this. It's such a shame.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a shame, but we'll put it in. It just didn't work out this evening because of all the
Yeah.
technical difficulties.
If
But
you could put the video in the email, the
yeah,
link to
sure.
it,
Absolutely.
that
We'll
might
find the
work.
video and get that out. It's just more issues with YouTube. It's
It
unfortunate.
is what it
It
is,
is what it is. But I just
and it's
want to
fine.
say thank you so much, Suzy, for being with us. And we'll definitely have you back to talk about functional medicine for sure. So I'm really
Oh, I
looking
would
forward to
love
doing that.
that as
And
well.
I just want to say thank you for again giving us a much more positive perspective on
Uh-huh.
the near-death experience, shared death experiences, and also giving us, because we have a tendency to sort of clump it all into one. And it seems to be a much more diversified and a much more detailed experience. There's a lot more going on than just sort of like leaving your body and that's it. So I really want to say thank you for enlightening us on that process
Huh.
and giving us, aspects of what to look forward to. And I know that you're looking forward to
Uh-huh.
it. I mean, I hope that you'll be around for much longer. You're such an amazing person, so I hope we'll have you around for much
Yeah,
longer.
I'm
You know?
75 years old.
Okay.
So I say I'm
You look
75
great.
going on 50. But I actually changed it to 60 because I'm getting a little tired.
Okay. That's great. So I want to
But yeah.
just, yeah, so I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. And again, I apologize for all the technical issues. We'll try to get that resolved with YouTube. But I want to say thank you to everyone. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And we will be
And thank
putting,
you, Crystal,
yeah,
for all that you do. And
thank
I
you.
encourage everybody not only to join the Starseeds and Light Workers,
Hmm.
but some of the, and she's on YouTube, so you can go and see everything, all the
Exactly.
people that she's talked to, and there's some fantastic information there and some wonderful presentations.
Hmm.
I'm glad I got to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Susie.
Absolutely. Okay.
So thank
Thanks,
you, everyone.
everybody.
And thank you,
Namaste.
Susie. And we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Okay.
Have a good
Thank you,
week.
everybody.
Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Oh, that's great. Well, you know what? We'll